Hola everyone, and welcome to Open. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host of Café con Leche every Friday. Here's what's coming up in today's show. First up, we're joined by two nurse practitioners who are here to explain why the nurse strike is so important to our essential healthcare system. And next up, we're joined by writer, author, and spiritual healer Zayda Rivera to talk about her new book, Being Bruja. Then we're joined by host of the Garifuna Experience podcast, Jose Francisco Avila, who's here with a powerful message for the Garifuna community. And finally, today's Open Artist Spotlight shines on actor, singer, dancer Joshua Garcia, who's closing out the show with a rancancan dance performance. So sit back y prepárate. All this and more is headed your way because now we are officially open. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Open. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host of Café con Leche. For the next hour, inviting you to get social with us online, that is. Follow us on Instagram at Bronxnet TV and like us on Facebook at Open Bronxnet Television. And of course, while you're there, don't forget, follow me on FB, Instagram, Insta Stories, Threads, and LinkedIn at Rhina Valentin. All right. Now that we got all of that in, joining us now are basically two of the approximately 15,000 nurses involved in the ongoing nurse strike here in New York City. And so what began as a walkout on January 12th, 2026, and has been going on for more than 3 weeks, is making it one of the largest and most significant nurse strikes in recent New York City history. The walkout has impacted multiple hospitals, including Mount Sinai Hospital, Mount Sinai Morningside West, New York Presbyterian, and Montefiore right here in the Bronx. And so nurses are demanding improved safe staffing ratios, better wages, and protection of health benefits. And although the nurses union says a tentative agreement was reached on maintaining health benefits at two hospitals, a final agreement between the hospitals and nurses has yet to be signed. The ongoing strike is not only garnering the attention of the media, but the public as well. And so a recent song written by a nurse named Akash Matthew from Unit Cloud 4 called Make It Right is quickly becoming a theme song of the nurses' strike. So let's take a look at the nurses on strike.
Clocking blues at the break of day. 30 on the list, one nurse on the floor. Name tags crack, but we still stay sweating our scrubs. Heels at the door. Babies cry, alarms or scream. We hold this place with coffee and tape. Charting in corners, swallowing grief. Praying our patience, make it out safe. We on strike till they make it right. Montefiore, hear us tonight. Underpaid hands, holding up lives. We won't bend, won't break, won't hide. We on strike till they make it right. We on strike till they make it right.
And there you have it. We're going to strike till we make it right. That's right. And here to bring more clarity to the ongoing nurse strike, we welcome Roxanna Garcia, nurse practitioner, and Hilda Haynes-Lewis, PhD, adult nurse practitioner. Hello and welcome. And we have to acknowledge Mini La Muñeca, who's out there, activated with you guys in solidarity. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a rough couple of weeks, huh?
Yes.
Rough and cold.
Rough and cold, I know.
Rough and cold.
Right? These low temperatures and y'all still
That's
out
right,
there
but our
making your
spirit
point.
is making us warm.
Yeah, so, I did mention that there's these possibilities at the table. But where are we now in all of this negotiations?
So where we are is, it's hard to say a percentage, 50%, 80%. We can't say that. Right now, they brought in a mediator. So we have our NISNA Executive Council Committee working with the mediator and working with management. So it's back and forth. Like around this time, they're meeting with the mediators, and eventually they'll meet with the management. So it's a whole process.
Yeah, there's a lot of protocol. Yeah. And so, Roxanna, you're also here representing the BX in Montefiore, right? So give us a little background on exactly what it is that I want to say you yourself personally have experienced, and why you're out there alongside your fellow nurses.
So personally, for me, this has been a very eye-opening experience. Now being on strike our second time. For many of your viewers, we were on strike 3 years ago, fighting for a lot of the very issues that we're still fighting for today. For me personally, it's about improving the patient experience for those that receive care at the hospital that we have, right, Montefiore. We really want to make sure that not only do the patients have access to the best possible care, but the nurses have the ability to provide that care in a safe environment, as well as an environment that's conducive to healing, because literally that is the goal at the end of the day.
And what does that entail, though?
So specifically at Montefiore, some of the issues that are very pertinent to us is the ED overcrowding. Our emergency room is notoriously small, especially during this very high peak flu season. It tends to be very crowded, and that environment can make it very tense, not only for patients, the visitors, but also for staff. We're asking that they create a space that alleviates some of that emergency room overcrowding. Also, we tend to have patients admitted into hallway beds once they get up to the unit. This means that they're not in a room, but out in the hallway with a curtain. So that deprives them of privacy, of dignity. And those are some of the two big issues that we're looking to alleviate, as well as maintaining our safe staffing ratio language, the accountability that comes with that, which means management has to pay when they don't maintain safe staffing ratios, making sure that, of course, living in New York City is expensive. Affordability is a very big hot word nowadays. So we just want to make sure that we have the ability to not only live in this city, afford to live in the city that we work in.
Right, and you mentioned that this is something that occurs every 3 years, and here you are 3 years, and picketing again. Is this going to happen in another 3 years as well?
We're hoping that it doesn't. So when we had a strike 3 years ago, personally, I've been at Montefiore over 35 years. Never had a strike. That was the first strike 3 years ago. We didn't think it would happen again, but it has. The relationship between the nurses union and management, things have changed. So we would have to prepare that maybe there could be another strike, but we're really hoping not. The reason that we're striking is really for patients. And we're hoping that this time they will see that they need to take patients out of a hallway. Imagine you're sick, you have a curtain around you, people are visiting, I have to take care of you, give you a bath in a hallway? That's not right. We believe our patients in the Bronx have dignity and deserve to be treated that way. So if we have to strike for that, that's the reason we're out in those streets.
And so what do you see as a resolution, right? Aside from obviously the staffing ratio, right? Is it the expansion of the building?
They don't have to expand the building. We've given them information on spaces that are available. Units that they have closed, they've done a lot of construction and moving around. What that has done, net less beds. That's not good. So we have shown them spaces that they have available that are offices that can be converted back to original patient rooms, which is the way it was. So we have concrete proposals that we've given them. So it's not something that is extraordinary. They have to build a new building. No, there's places there to expand and have a holding room for the emergency room, and also to open more beds within the hospital to alleviate the crowding in the emergency room. That's where it starts. In the emergency room, we need to have more space there, and then we need to have more beds to put patients in. Patients should have a bed, a room, a bathroom, and a door, not a curtain and a TV in the hallway.
All right, so we're talking about the flow as well. And so going back to the needs, right? Somebody who's watching right now thinking that this is about your needs. Obviously, it's more than just your needs, but you also need to be right in order to take care of the patient. So if somebody were watching and they're not a nurse, how can they contribute to the movement?
So there's resources available. I'm not sure if you'll share those with your viewers on our website. Come out to the picket line. That is one of the best things that people can do. Come out, support, be visible, let the hospitals know that it's not only the nurses that are out there, but it's also the community that's out there in support of us. Reach out to your elected officials, local officials, state officials, city officials. Put pressure on them. Reach out to them, call them, send them an email, as well as reaching out to other community organizations. Our community has supported us not only during this strike, but our previous strike. They are really our foundation in helping us get through this. So these are all different ways that they can support, and if anyone is so inclined and is able to, we also have a hardship fund. Many of your viewers may or may not know this, but we do not get paid while we are on strike. Our colleagues over at Mount Sinai and New York Presbyterian don't have health insurance. We're at risk of losing our health insurance at the end of the month. So these are all options that communities have in order to support us.
Oh my gosh, my heart just dropped just hearing this, right? Because, yeah. Right? And then they also brought in temporary nurses in the meantime. So help me understand and make sense of this so that the viewers can understand as well.
So currently they have what they call traveling nurses. So they're nurses that are licensed in different places. And they come and they're paid an extraordinary amount, thousands of dollars each week in order to take care of patients within the hospital. So they're coming, they're new, they might be seasoned, experienced, and others are not, but they're coming in to take our place while we're outside. So the hospitals are able to do this because they have resources that they've been gathering up to pay an extraordinary amount of money and not be able, well, they're saying they don't have money to give us an affordable wage.
Yes. By all means.
Just to really emphasize this. So currently, the travel nurses on average get paid anywhere from $8,000 to $9,000 a week to be at the hospital. If you calculate that by the number of nurses that they're currently needing to just even cover a third of the total number of nurses that are on a strike, that's anywhere from $13 to maybe $20 million a week that they're paying on this labor, correct? So when the hospitals say they don't have money, clearly that is not true. These hospitals have been saving money, they have strike insurance, they're using resources that they have in foreign accounts to really be able for them to finance this strike for as long as they have, because the intent at the end of the day isn't just to prevent us from holding them accountable for the things that we're asking for, but also bigger picture, breaking labor movement, right? Showing that workers that are united, that organize, should not be able to win against bigger corporations. So this is an important issue that I think is highlighted by how much money they're spending on this.
Right. So once again, it's a democracy challenge, right? Our democracy is being challenged in so many ways.
And the whole labor movement is being challenged right now. And that's a bigger problem. So we're just thinking, oh, we're nurses just in one state. But when you think about it, us little guys are able to stand up because we're unified. And if we give up this fight, then it's just union busting is really what it's come down to. And we are standing out in the cold every day because we're fighting this. And we know that we're fighting for a good reason, the best reason, which is patient care, patient dignity.
And so before we run out of time, I want to know from both of you on a personal note so you can share with our viewers. What made you decide to become a nurse?
You want to go first?
Well, I decided when I was in school, back in high school, well, actually middle school, that I loved taking care of people, and I thought that was the best. And when I became a nurse more than 35 years ago, we still wore white uniforms, and I had such pride. And as I started to take care of patients, I'm an oncology nurse, once an oncology nurse, always an oncology nurse. And I love taking care of the patients in this community. I've worked at Montefiore in the Bronx for 35 years. And why do I work here? Because I love it. I love the people. And I think they deserve the best care. And every day when I go to work, that's what I do. And I give the best care, and taking care of them, helping them through some of the worst times of their lives, gets me through the day. And it's worth it.
And your PhD is in?
In nursing. So my PhD is looking at the stress and distress of older adults with advanced cancer. Because we've done so much in oncology and cancer, it's not a death sentence. People are living much longer, and I want them to have a better quality of life, even if they have advanced cancer.
So you took the time to better educate yourself so that you can provide better service.
For my patients.
Right, here in the Bronx.
Yes. Always in the Bronx.
Thank you for sharing that.
Always.
Roxana?
For me, it's about serving. You know, I really do believe that the best thing that we can do as humans is to serve others.
To getting emotional. I knew, you know, and it's important that we share this with our viewers, because you have to come from that place of service in order to do a job like this.
So for me, it's about service. Service to my community, service to my patients. Because this is not just a job, it's a calling, and we do it wholeheartedly with the truth of intentions to provide the best care to our patients. Sorry, I was not planning on getting emotional, but yes, it really is about a call to service.
I felt that deeply. And when, you know, taking it back to COVID days,
Yes.
you know, when there was nobody who was able to visit patients. It was you ladies that were there, holding the patient's hands.
Yeah.
Especially for me, I work in ICU and critical care, and so often, I can't even tell you how many times, we were the last person that our patients saw, held their hand, got them through that very last moment. And that was hard. It was hard. And I have to say that that experience really taught me that even through the darkest of times in our healthcare profession, nurses are resilient. We can get through this. Mm-hmm. And so we're using that same resilience to get through this strike, because healthcare disparity is such an issue, especially in the Bronx. When you compare it to other neighborhoods, for example, White Plains. Our Montefiore has hospitals in White Plains. And the level of care, the level of investment that community receives is completely different from what they invest in the communities here in the Bronx. And so that disparity, that injustice, is really at the root of our fight.
Absolutely. They don't have hallway beds in White Plains.
All right, and I think we keep repeating that so that it's known that really you're fighting for accommodations and dignity.
And dignity. Every little abuela needs to have dignity. I think of them having to take care of them in those conditions. It should be better. And that is the reason that nurses are out on strike.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it here to our viewers. I hope we got the message across. I mean, we acknowledge you for being out there in the frigid cold and standing up, you know, standing up for each other and for us, for that matter, right? For our community. Once again, Roxanna Garcia and Hilda Haynes-Lewis, nurses. Oh my gosh, thank you for your service.
Thank you for having us.
And then, you know, we want to acknowledge Mini La Muñeca.
Because this really is, every patient is a VIP.
Every patient.
That is at the core of what we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, once again, for more on the nurses' strike, and if you're interested in participating, please go to the New York State Nursing Association's Instagram at NY Nurses. And for Montefiore nurses, you can follow them on Instagram at Nurse Power at Monte. All right, stay tuned. There's more open when we return. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Open. So, for over 20 years, our next guest has been writing for a variety of publications covering everything from lifestyle, parenting, women's issues, spirituality, and astrology. Her journey into the world of healing and spirituality has led her to a career path to help others live a life of truth and presence through her business, Mindful Living with Z, which she launched in 2019. Her latest book, Being Bruja, is an all-inclusive and thorough guide that introduces mystic practices aimed at curious young readers. And it's an informative guide to teach young beginners on how to integrate spirituality into their daily lives by connecting with the earth and our spiritual ancestors, as well as cleansing and protection, right? And here to tell us more about her book, Being Bruja, is writer, author, Reiki master, yoga instructor, and spiritual healer, Zayda Rivera. Hello and welcome.
Hello, Rhina. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it here to our audience. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This book is really, really phenomenal. I personally enjoyed reading. I mean, I haven't read it in its entirety, but it's actually written in a way that you don't have to read it in its entirety.
Right.
You can read it based on the sections that I guess you're called to read.
Absolutely.
I first want to introduce you to our audience and just share a little bit about your journey into your spirituality.
So really, I mean, the spiritual awakening really started over 20 years ago, but I will say that childbirth actually really awakened spirituality for me. So having my oldest daughter, I experienced my first out-of-body experience during that delivery.
Wow.
And then having my twins, I went through a tough time after the birth of them and did not know if I was going to make it home, and went through a very deep spiritual experience in the hospital when I was in intensive care. So coming out of that, when I was able to leave the hospital, go home to my kids, Spirit was talking to me the whole time and said, this journey is happening to you for a reason. You are to share this knowledge, study and share. Some people's spiritual journeys are very private and personal and for them only, and I totally respect it. My calling was different though. After 20 years as a journalist, Spirit was like, I'm using you to write this. This is for everyone out there, the inner childs of all the Latinos and Latinas that have seen this type of work as kids, and the younger ones that are curious about it.
I want to know the work that you did to research the information that's being provided. But what I appreciate the most is, again, going back to the simplicity of not necessarily having to invest in items that that you may even have some of the items in your home without even knowing that they could serve in that way. You know?
Absolutely. I think a lot of the things I work with are right in my kitchen. Cinnamon, different herbs, rosemary. These all have medicinal and spiritual ingredients and symbolism behind them. Things that our ancestors have been using for generations to just heal different ailments, whether they be mental, physical, or spiritual.
And so what made you decide to write it in Spanish as well?
Oh, that was so important. That was so important. I definitely want to give a shout out to my publisher, Hachette Books and Running Kids Press. That was very important to them too. You know, I'm Boricua, Puerto Riqueña, proud, Taíno. And how could I not serve the community without putting it in Spanish? I wanted a child that's in Mexico that feels unseen, but is being called to do this work, to feel seen, to know that they can get the book, and it's Vivir Bruja in Spanish.
I love it. And then there's also your process, right? Because you shared with me off camera that you actually lived in Puerto Rico while the majority of the process, right?
Yeah, I traveled there multiple times to write the book. I felt so drawn to being on the island amongst my ancestors to write it there. So in little places throughout the island, Fajardo, Luquillo, San Juan, just all different places, I found myself there. And I would literally take 2 to 3 day journeys by myself And as a writer and creative, just getting in the lab and doing the work.
And so the order in which it's been written, we can't really get into the entire book, but it's definitely, it's so brilliant. It's so brilliantly done, really. I'm enjoying reading it. But I do want to share with our audience just a few sections, right? Okay. So let's start with just like the essentials, right?
So the essential tools.
Yes.
To start with, I always say start with something that's cleansing. So like, for instance, this is Florida water, agua de Florida. And a lot of abuelas have used this. I'm sure you're familiar with it as well. I carry a little.
I'll have some.
Yes, please. I carry a little with me everywhere I go. And when you do that, you could do like this. Just put it in your hands and cleanse right around your crown. Just cleanse your crown. I always tell people do it 3 times. You could do this before you leave the house, and boom. Just like that, you have an energy center around you, protecting you all day. In cities like New York City, where we're right up against everybody all day, it's really important for us to protect our energy and our spirituality. And so I do that every single day. Other essential tools are crystals. I absolutely love this one. This was gifted to me from a curandera in a very small town in Mexico. And she said it holds the power of the rainbow. And I just feel so drawn to this. I always feel very protected when I have it with me. You can hold it too.
Oh, you're loaning it to me. Nice.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
So I always tell people that's an essential tool too. If you feel like you need a little extra power in your day, carry a crystal with you. Put it in your pocket. And when you're feeling that insecurity, those self-doubts, touch it. And feel the surge of energy go through you. You're protected.
And in the book, I want to just add to that, you give a nice breakdown of the different gemstones.
Yes.
And also just having something like this to go to bed with, right?
Absolutely.
In the sense of like practicing it either in the morning or at night, and understanding that it's, like you said, your protection and also
Absolutely.
a means of grounding yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and then, of course, what I was referring to is like the gemstones. They all serve different purposes.
Yes.
They all come in different colors. Each color also kind of represents the chakras. And that's all in the book. It's all in the
Everything.
book.
Yes.
Which is lovely. And then, because I want to make sure we tap into at least some of the topics that really stood out for us, right? So then there's the altar, right?
Yes.
In designing an altar, right? Which a lot of people tend to reference it primarily during, November, right?
Right.
The 1st of November, an ofrenda, but this is something that you can actually have in your home and upkeep. And so share a little bit about that.
Year round. You never, of course, Dia de los Muertos, that's a very beautiful, honored tradition to have your ofrenda. But I have altars throughout my home for different reasons. I have a money altar that keeps my abundance flowing. I have an altar that honors my abuela that passed away in Puerto Rico many years ago. And, make sure that you're always keeping things fresh on that altar. Don't let it get dusty. That's an honored, beautiful place of power in your home. So making sure that all the 4 elements are represented, right? I always have a plant there that represents earth. I have a candle there that represents the air element, right? I'll have water or something that actually symbolizes something to them. For instance, my Titi Carmen passed 2 years ago, and I inherited, actually wearing one of her sweaters today, I inherited a lot of things that meant something to her, and I put little things next to her picture. These are I think the reason this book is so simple is because I wanted to make sure people understand this work is simple. It's practical magic, and we all have the tools to do it. I'm no like more special than the next person. I just studied it. So I know the tools to use, and I'm so happy to pass this knowledge on.
Yeah, and I love that you also tap into, igniting it and how it's there. And then there's the honoring of our past, right?
Absolutely.
Which we were talking about, the ancestry, those who have transitioned. But then there's also a chapter on head wraps and the symbolisms behind that.
So important. So head wraps have been a symbol that's traveled through generations. when the African slaves were brought over and some ended up in the Caribbean, they were still wearing their head wraps. This was a symbol of protecting from the sun when they worked long hours out in the sun. But this was also a spiritual symbol. This was protecting your crown, right? So like no matter how much oppression was being thrown at them, their crown was protected at all times. And at some point, the Tignon laws came in and said, no, you have to wear a head wrap so that you're less attractive than the women of color, right? So what did our women do? Oh, okay, fine. You want us to wear head wraps so we're not as attractive? We're gonna add jewels and feathers and we're gonna make them the most beautiful head wraps you have ever seen. And you see that still existing today. Whenever I hold space for groups, it's the first thing I do is cover my head.
We can go on and on and on, and I can go into chapter after chapter. Even though I said I didn't read the whole book, I read a lot of it. I read a lot of it, and that's the beauty of it, right? Is that I was opening it up to whatever chapter called me, and I was able to see that you work a lot with the elements, you work a lot with the four corners, a lot of the indigenous practices, simple practices with cleansing with egg. I mean, there's just all kinds of jewels in there, and I'm so happy that you made it accessible for the next generation to comprehend.
Absolutely. It's from middle school to high school students. I just recently sent a whole box over to a middle school in Texas who's going to have it in their new library. I'm so excited. And I sent it in both English and Spanish because the school is predominantly Spanish speaking. So the fact that this is traveling around already and reaching other places, it's so exciting to me.
Well, congratulations on
Thank
that.
you, Rhina.
And now the last thing I want to say before we wrap up is why Being Bruja?
You know,
I want to destigmatize
exactly
the word bruja.
That's exactly why. I wanted to put that out there. People, I was just talking to my makeup artist about this. People come up to me all the time and say, so are you a witch? And the first thing I ask them is, what does that make you feel like? What does that word make you feel like? Let's start there. When colonization came in, our ancestors were doing these beautiful practices for generations, and they were quickly labeled evil in order to push them out and introduce a different ideology. And so I'm bringing it back to say, this is a safe space. When I do my work, if you want to call me a bruja because I work with the elements that the earth gives us, go right ahead, because my ancestors are standing right behind me. And in fact, they're here right now in the studio, cheering me on and making sure that this book gets as far as possible.
And we thank you for bringing it here and sharing it with us and
Thank
our viewers.
you.
And that, on that note, you know, again, this is an introduction to a young mystic guide. All right, once again, Zayda Rivera, everyone. Being Bruja, the book, again, A Young Mystic Guide, is available on Amazon and at Barnes & Noble bookstores. And if you're interested in more information, you can visit mindfullivingwithz.com and or on IG and FB. You can follow her at Mindful Living with Z. All right, stay tuned for more Open when we return.
Sent from the future to save the past, heal the planet and make it last. We find solutions with knowledge light. Venture forth, echo leaders unite. Echo leaders, echo leaders.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Open. So New York City is home to the largest Garifuna population outside of Central America. The vibrant community with roots in Honduras, Belize, Guatemala, and Nicaragua boasts a population of over 250,000 members in New York. And my next guest, is not only a member of the community, but he is the host of the Garifuna Experience podcast, which is dedicated to elevating the voices of the Garifuna people by celebrating the community's culture, history, and resilience, while highlighting their valuable contributions to New York and the United States. And joining us now to discuss his podcast and the special message of support for the community's next generation of political leaders, we welcome Chairman of the Garifuna Coalition, Jose Francisco Avila, who is no stranger to the show. Hello and welcome back, Senor. It is such an honor to have you here.
Hello, Rhina. It's always a pleasure to be here. This is our annual meeting place.
It apparently seems to be because you're doing such wonderful work for your community. And now with this podcast and also the sightseeing, I mean, I've been keeping track of you. I'm like, oh my gosh, we have so much to cover, right? And I know we're way in advance of Garifuna Heritage Month.
Exactly. Yes.
However, we're going to try and cover as much as we possibly can. And I actually want to start with the podcast because I noticed in your most recent podcast, you were communicating to the Gen Z and millennials, and it's really political because you state within the podcast that there's a lack of representation in office.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Let's start with the fact that the Garifuna Coalition, the Garifuna community has been migrating to New York for now 94 years. In 2032, we'll be celebrating the centennial of our migration. And within that period, there's currently only one Garifuna elected official, which is in the town around Albany. So therefore, we feel that we're undercounted in the census and underrepresented, which, as we know, they're tied in. As I explained to the community, the census is not just about numbers, it also defines the political power, right? Redistricting happens after the census. So we decided that we need to start that movement now to start educating the community for 2030, 2031, when the next redistricting will happen.
Got it. So you're already thinking in the future, and you're also educating the next generation.
Correct.
In the process, which is lovely. Now, let's talk about the coalition. Now, also you being a licensed tour guide, right? I'm like, he is really in there making sure that you preserve. No, I think it's brilliant, which is why I'm going to try and cover as much as we possibly can, because the tour guide, the reason I mention that is because of the Happy Land Social Club and the preservation of the fire and the preservation of that history. And if you don't keep passing it on, it's going to be forgotten.
Yes. Well, Rhina, let me start by saying, again, we've been here for 100. I was born in Honduras, and I lived in Honduras up to the age of 15. So I spent all my adult life. I left Honduras knowing that I was Garifuna, not knowing what it meant to be Garifuna. So eventually I started my own research, and I tell the story. As a matter of fact, the previous person that was here talked about spirituality. I call it, it was a spiritual experience. And I refer to it, I decided to answer my calling. And since then, my mission became to inform, educate, and advocate for the Garifuna people.
Okay, now because you said identifying a Garifuna, let's share that with our viewers, right? Because Garifuna also speaks a language, right?
Absolutely.
Right, you have you kept the folkloric language, right?
Yep.
And so, what does it mean to be Garifuna?
And that's what I discovered when I did my research. We are people who hail from the island of St. Vincent, today called St. Vincent and the Grenadines, in the Caribbean. My ancestors fought the British for over 30 years. And when they couldn't destroy us, they actually exiled 2,248 to an island called Roatan, which is now part of Honduras. 222 of those ancestors died on the journey from St. Vincent, which left on March 11, 1797, and arrived in Honduras on April 12, 1797. So that's why we were able to proclaim Garifuna Heritage Month during those dates. And we settled in Honduras. We negotiated with the Spaniards. Eventually, we settled, and then we moved from there to Belize, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. What distinguishes us is our culture, our history, but also our own language.
Right.
I refer to you as my Taino cousin.
Right, because you're actually the group that is teaching the Tainos, people who identify as being Taino,
Sure.
the Arawak.
Exactly.
Right.
Because the Garifuna language is actually, some people refer to it as African. It's not. It's the original language of the indigenous people of the
right.
Caribbean, the Tainos, the Arawak, and all those names, the Caribs that the Spaniards and the English called us. But that's the indigenous language of the Caribbean. And again, we still maintain it. So we'll be celebrating 229th year of being exiled from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And today, through the process of migration, as you mentioned before, New York is home to the largest Garifuna population outside of Central America. And again, that's why we're pursuing representation. It's going to be 100 years, but that's our history. And throughout those years, we have maintained the language, we have maintained the culture.
Why is it between March and April? Right? I mean, it's almost like Hispanic Heritage Month. You share 2 months. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Hispanic Heritage Month is the example for Garifuna Heritage Month. And by the way, I was just explaining that to someone recently. I mentioned that I'm from Honduras. The reason Hispanic Heritage Month starts in September 15th is the independence of Central America, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua, in El Salvador, September 15th. So the reason for March 11, the ships where my ancestors were exiled from St. Vincent, left St. Vincent of March 11, 1797. And they arrived in Honduras on April 12, 1797. But in between, March 14 was the day that the paramount Garifuna chief, Joseph Chatouillet, was killed in St. Vincent. And that was 231 years ago, 2 years after he was killed. That's when but in between also is March 25th, 1990, the Happy Land Social Club fire.
Right.
That's the second worst fire in New York City. 87 people perished, most of them Honduran, but most of them of the Garifuna descent. So that's why we incorporated Garifuna Heritage Month within that. And you're an artist. Last year, on March 17, we lost the premier Garifuna artist, Aurelio Martinez, on March 17. So that falls also, interesting enough, within Garifuna Heritage Month.
I know you have a whole itinerary set up. I know something started in January, but can you share what people can participate in? Because I know you have a few events happening in March as well as April.
It's mostly March. Typically, we have an event at City Hall, and we also have one at Borough Hall. This year, we actually will have an event at One Police Plaza, because again, the growth of the community. There's actually the Garifuna American Law Enforcement Association, and they'll be holding an event there. We also going to be holding an event at a place that you're familiar with, Storyland, on March 24th. And it's actually the launch of a document that was published by the New York Historic Districts Council. And it's actually a description of the places that I include in my walking tour around the Happy Land Memorial. And what's interesting, when I mention the tour, right, everyone thinks about the monument. The tour actually starts on 174th Street, because that's where the heart of the Garifuna community is located. Usually when you read, where's the Garifuna located? In the South Bronx. Well, now we know, and exactly, so that's why we start there. But within that path, from 174 to the monument, it's a historic place. For instance, there's a place right in the middle that we call the Parque de los Trujillanos, Trujillano Park. Why? Because back in the 30s, when we started migrating, the first immigrants were merchant marines. And during the summer, after work, they will meet in that place. So they start, vamos al Parque de los Trujillanos, because that's what they meant. So there's a lot of history in that stretch. So that's why we do it. And at the same time, again, the launch of the brochure, again, it's going to be documented. And it's significant because it's the Historic Districts Council who we work with. So that symbolizes the significance and importance of the Garifuna heritage. And by the way, I have to mention this. The fact that the first African-American play produced in the United States is called The Drama of King Shotaway. William Henry Brown wrote it, and it was presented in New York, 1823, over 200 years ago. is the story of the Garifuna exile from St. Vincent. So the Garifuna heritage, intangible heritage, has been contributing to New York for over 200 years. And it's also important for me to mention that in 2001, UNESCO proclaimed the Garifuna language, music, and dance as masterpieces of the oral and intangible heritage of humanity. So that's how significant the Garifuna culture
That's
is.
why everybody has to listen to your podcast. I don't even know how you keep all of this in your head. I mean, unbelievable. I'm always sitting in awe, just listening to everything that you're able to
Thank you.
retain and
It's-
share with our audience. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. And to conclude, back to the podcast, the latest, as you mentioned, is really about, I'm retired. I've been retired now for over 12 years. It's about generational transfer. It's passing all this knowledge and experience to the future generations.
Well, we thank you for bringing it here and sharing it
welcome.
with our viewers and passing it on to the next generation through
Thank you,
our
Rhina.
channels. And you guys, once again, the podcast is available on the website, Jose Francisco Avila. And if you're interested in more information, for more information, I should say, the Garifuna Experience podcast, which is going to give you all of this information that we just shared in increments too. He does them in small increments. They're not really long podcast sound bites. They're like in increments of 10 minutes,
Yeah,
which is like
correct.
short form storytelling,
Yes.
which is good. So you're able to digest it. You know what I
That's
mean?
intention.
Right? Yeah. And so once again, you can go to the Garifuna Experience in NYC.com. And for more on everything Garifuna, you can also follow Jose on Instagram at Jose F. Avi. All right, stay tuned. We're open when we return. Hey everyone, welcome back to Open. Today's Open artist is a Bronx native who started dancing at age 5. He was the feature dancer in the movie In the Heights and the musical On Your Feet, the Gloria Estefan story, at the Paper Mill House Theater. But that's not all. As a dancer, he's graced the stage alongside musical legends such as Tito Nieves, Tito Puente Jr., Victor Manuel, Jose Alberto El Canario, Bobby Allende, Perdóname, and Brenda K-Star, and that's just to name a few. As an actor, he's appeared in the Hulu series Mike, a biopic about Mike Tyson and Law and Order Organized Crime. And here to share more about his love for dance and where his career is headed to next is actor, singer, dancer Joshua Garcia. Hello and welcome.
How you doing today?
Good. OMG. I mean, you know, all this name dropping I just did. And you're what, 16?
Yeah, 16 years old.
Oh my goodness. So, what came first?
Low-key, I did a school talent show at my mom's elementary school there, and I did Michael Jackson's Thriller.
How old were you then?
I was like 5,
Uh-huh.
4 going into 5.
Uh-huh.
So it was very confusing. I was very scared of it as a kid. I didn't like Thriller. The music video scared me, but the music intrigued me. And I just kept dancing and doing that. Did the Michael Jackson experience, like the Wii game. And I just kept doing those videos on my Kindle, and I was like, oh, this is so much fun. And then I think it was like someone in her school told my mom, say, hey, you should like join a dance studio. And I started doing hip hop. I wasn't even a salsa dancer at that. I was a hip hop dancer at core. And then this teacher was like, hey, you should do salsa. And I just watched as a kid. I was like, wow, I can never do that. There's steps. They're going mad fast. The crossovers, all that. I'm going to get stuck and fall.
I know, I'm watching you go.
I'm going to get stuck, fall, trip, and then look dumb.
All right, but how old were you then?
I was like 5, 6, maybe. 6 maybe.
Okay, so you got intimidated with the salsa at 5, 6.
Yeah,
right?
six,
But you were
going
doing
into
hip hop.
7. Yeah, I was
Okay.
I was
I
hip
just
hop
want to
and
make sure
salsa.
we're all following along. Keep going.
And then around like 7 or 8, no, 6.5. I did my first salsa congress, which was like a whole bunch of teams and like companies go to this place and they all just dance.
At 7 you did a salsa congress?
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah, around like 6.5, and I was like, oh, it's really late outside. I've never been up past like 8, so being here at like 10, 11, It's pretty late, so I'm a little tired. But I took a nap before, so it felt like 7 or like 6. And I just started dancing. I had so much fun. The people were cheering me on because I was like the only kid on the stage with full adults. It's crazy. And it just all went on and snowballed
Right,
from there.
yeah. I mean, it got you a role in the Heights, right?
Yes, it did.
You were like a major featured dancer in
Yeah,
that
I
too.
was in 2 scenes. I was
Nice.
in the scene When You're Home with Nina and Benny and Carnaval de Barrio.
And so I know we have some images of you with some artists. Again, we can't name them all, but it's very impressive that you've shared the stage with people such as Tito Nieves, right?
Yes.
And who else? Tito Puente Jr. Okay, that's you with Tito Puente Jr.
Yeah.
And who else? Oh, there's Tito Nieves.
Victor Manuel, Brenda K. Starr, Bobby Allende, Jose Alberto Canario. There he is right there. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Victor Manuel. I
And
think I
that's
said
you
that.
with Brenda K. Starr.
Yeah.
Damn,
I'm trying to think.
And who's that?
Victor Manuel.
Victor
Funny story
Manuel,
on that. Funny story on that. He actually was speaking to me in full Spanish. My Spanish is terrible, and at that time it was even worse. So I didn't understand it. So all he said was Puerto Rico in the end. I was like, oh, he wants to say Puerto Rico, and it was perfect right there. Context clues really helped with that one.
And so you were dancing alongside him?
Yeah, it was.
All right, so you've been touring.
No, not touring.
Not touring, so this is primarily when they come to New York or
Yeah.
like their New York gigs?
Yeah.
Yeah? So how's that been for your parents, though?
Well, they're big fans of the people, and I don't know who they are, especially when I was that young. I didn't know who they were, so I just kind of went, and my dad was like, yo, just dance. Like, if you like it, just dance. So I started dancing on the stage, and Victor Manuel calls me. He's like, he kept looking, like he double-taked like twice, and then he called me up, and I started dancing on the stage with him.
And then from there, you've just been asked to accompany these like legendary singers.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. And so what kind of lessons have you learned from all of this? Because it seems as though you're being taught as you go along and participate at the same time.
Never be ready for a specific plan, because things could always turn left and you could just be improvising right there. Like, yo, you got to go on now, actually. So I just never learned to be comfortable and always just be on my toes and get ready for the next thing that comes up my way.
That's a great lesson, you know, because it's challenging, right?
Yeah,
we,
for sure.
we tend to make plans and expect things to happen a certain way. So you're already conditioned to kind of like go with the flow of whatever may occur, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so I understand, though, that you're not solely a dancer. You're also acting. And you just recently did a Denny's commercial, no?
Yeah, I did. That was a lot of fun. It happened over the summer of last year. And I was like, Denny's, I highly doubt I'm going to get it. It's a commercial. I don't get booked for commercials, but my manager was like, hey, you should just do it. And I did it. I wasn't expecting a callback or anything. It was like, oh, actually, you got the job. I was like, oh. I got the job. Let's go. So I ended up going there, and they were actually like crafting the food there and like making it permanent there. And I was like, I always wondered if they actually went to the restaurant and ordered it and they just reordered it over and over. But no, it's far from what I thought. And it was very fun to do that experience.
Nice. So thanks for sharing a little of the BTS behind that, and congratulations on
Thank you very
booking that
much.
gig. But I also understand that now you're developing your singing as well.
Yes, I am. Singing happened as like a joke, not even a joke. I'm not gonna say it was a joke. Singing happened as like by mistake, because I was always singing in the bathroom, just giving concerts to myself, and I was like, okay, I sounded okay. And my acting coach before, like now, he was like, oh, you should just sing, like just sing me a song right now. And I started singing 3090 from the musical Tick Tick Boom, and he said, hey, that actually wasn't that bad. And I was like, I thought I did terrible, so I don't know why you're saying like. And it eventually went on. And then my manager got me a vocal coach, and it just started building up from there. And yeah.
So being around these legendary singers didn't have an influence over it?
No, because I don't speak Spanish and stuff, so I didn't think about singing Spanish.
Got it.
I thought about singing like musical theater, Elvis, rock, and it's just like that's how I started my core. I
Okay,
guess.
that's your genre. That's your
Yeah.
preference. I
Yeah.
got you. And so which, if you had to choose, not that I'm asking you to, which is your first love?
Ooh. I think my first love is always going to be what got me into the door, so it's going to be dance.
It's dance.
Yeah.
And that's what you're going to be presenting for us today, too, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. All right. So, where are you now in your career? I mean, we did mention that you were in Mike Tyson, you were in Law and Order, so you're getting acting gigs as well. So, how are you moving right now?
Right now, I'm currently doing my school plays Come From Away. It's about a musical of after the tragedy of 9/11 and how like all these people unites and like in grief and like they all gain this really good relationship. I'm playing the character of Bob, which is like a New Yorker, so it's even double the trauma for him. And it's a lot of research that I have to do on 9/11 and how New Yorkers react, the firefighters, everyone there, and how they were so tight, and the character doesn't even know what's going on. So it's just a lot of grief for me.
A lot of what?
Grief, like grieving and
Yeah.
like a lot of focus that I have to do in that show.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, to pull from that and also be able to manage it, right? So are you studying acting as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm studying it in my school.
Yeah. You go to a performing arts high school?
Yeah, PPAS, Professional
nice.
Performing Arts.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. My daughter's in a performing arts high school as well. But good for you.
Thank
and,
you.
you know, I'm so excited to showcase you now, right? I
Thank
can't
you.
wait to see where you're going to be in a couple of years.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, you look like you're on your way.
I hope. I really hope so.
Well, I believe so, and I think they're going to believe so after they see you perform. So, everyone, Joshua Garcia, and I just want to say, bueno, don't go anywhere because when we return, Joshua is going to perform a dance for us that you don't want to miss. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Open. Here now to Rangangang. We welcome Joshua Garcia.
¡Que viva Tito Puente!
Yay! Joshua, everyone! Yes! Once again, you can follow Joshua Garcia on Instagram at Josh G Dancer. That is our show today, mi gente. Thanks to all our guests for coming through. To you, our viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of the show, you can check out this episode throughout the weekend and 24 hours a day at Bronxnet.tv. I'm Rhina Valentin, and from all of us here at Open, may the universe provide paz, prosperity, y amor. All right, Rankangang. Hey.